Shalom. We're going to learn together, Bezrat Hashem, Orot HaMilchama. That's the lights of war of Rav Kook. Being that Israel is now in a stage of war, and there is nothing more applicable than this. The name Lights of War sounds a little weird because if you think about it, there's nothing worse in life than death. And the only thing which is worse than death is a lot of death. And that's what war is about. On the other hand, Rav Kook finds optimism and finds the good in everything. And so too during war. We don't have time to get into the history, but Rav Kook is writing this during World War I. But it's a lot more true regarding the wars of Israel, as we're going to see. Rav Kook writes in the beginning of Orot HaMilchama, "Ksheyesh milchama gdola ba'olam mitorer koach Mashiach." When there are big wars, that awakens the spirit of Mashiach. Now, Rav Kook is based here on a midrash, which Chazal say on the Avraham Avinu's war against the four kings. But what Chazal really are saying, what Rav Kook is saying, is that war is a way of overhauling the world. What was called after World War I, the New World Order. And then after World War II, there was another New World Order. And after the War of Independence, and after Israel's Six-Day War, and after the Yom Kippur War, after every war, every big war, there is a New World Order. And just like the Balfour Declaration came out of World War I, and the redivision of Europe came out of World War I, again in World War II, so too, the present war with the Hamas is a war of morality against evil. We don't have time to go into the New World Order and the overhaul that's going to be in Israeli politics, but everyone is talking about how the right against the left isn't the same as what it used to be, because the unity is back. The religious against the non-religious. We see a lot of Haredim who are joining the Israeli army, and everyone's helping out and volunteering. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, there's going to be a lot of change, positive change in the world. But the first thing that I want to talk about here is what Rav Kook continues, and he says that the war against evil is a moral war. And this is part of the Geula process. The Gemara in Masechet Megillah, the Talmud tells us that war is part of Atchalta de Geula. It's the beginning of the redemption. We know the prophet Zechariah and Yechezkel and other places, they talk about how wars are part of the Geula process. And what we're going to learn together in the series is why is that. Now, the first and most basic thing that Rav Kook already writes at the beginning is that Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel, fights war against wars, a moral war. And this is significantly different. My father's master's is in comparative religions, and a lot of time it helps us when we compare ourselves to other religions. In Christianity, for example, everybody knows that they say in their what they call the New Testament, if somebody slaps you in the face, turn the other cheek and say, slap me here too. Or resist not evil. They say that evil is like the Satan, and we cannot defeat the Satan, and it's not even worth stooping down to their level to fight. Judaism very strongly disagrees, and we believe that there is a mitzvah, there's a commandment to fight evil. The Rambam, in the laws of governments, Hilchot Melachim u'Milchamotehem, he writes about how part of the job of the governments of Israel is to fight against evil. And that's exactly what we're doing. I think Hamas gave us a very clear situation where the world today is not divided between pro-Israel and anti-Israel. It's divided between the moral and the evil. And the Rambam, that same Maimonides, in The Guide for the Perplexed, in part 3, chapter 35, he writes that why are we so adamant to fight against evil? First of all, for the victim. There are a lot of weak people in the world, and it's just to stick up for the weak people. Number two, for society. Anybody who's grown up in New York knows that Harlem is not a pleasant place to live, and we don't want Israel to look like Harlem. So that's why we have mitzvot like lo ta'amod al dam re'echa. In Sefer Devarim, it tells us in Sefer Vayikra, 19:16, it says that you're not allowed to stand idly by when somebody is in trouble. We're not interested in Kitty Genovese, where everyone's watching and nobody calls the police. You have to get involved, or as they used to say, if you're not part of the problem, you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So that's in terms of the victim. We also want to fix society. We also want to fix the world. Am Yisrael is a light unto the nations, and we have to show the world not to turn the other cheek. And somebody has to stand up to fanatic Islamists and fight back. And that is what the Jews throughout the Tanakh, the heroes, the biblical heroes, they always fought back. And but fourth is that we have an obligation, not just to the victim, to society, and to the world, but the Rambam says it's moral to the evil person himself. Do him a favor. Deter him as soon as possible so that he should not be evil. You're doing him a favor. Evil people suffer the most from their evilness. Evil people usually don't have happy marriages. Evil people usually don't have good relationships with their children. They don't have a lot of friends. And so the Rambam says Judaism believes very strongly in fighting evil. Ohavei Hashem sin'u ra. Those who love Hashem, love goodness. It's not enough just to do good. Sometimes we have to actually battle evil. That we Jews, we don't start wars, but we know very well how to finish them. And that we learn from the biblical heroes, because we have an obligation in our war against wars. Shalom.